Drew and I guess Catherine is going to join us as well, right?
Yeah, she's
I'm
here.
here.
Okay,
Nice. Well, it's great to
here we
see
go.
everyone. Thanks
Okay.
for another quarterly discussion. We're excited to have it. I know today, we've got two topics about the insights and observations about the application submittals, as well as key observations for the building and plan review and inspection. So, without further ado, Helman, I'll kick it off to you and take it away. We're excited to talk about it.
Great, thanks, Ted. Thank you for having us with your group again. We're happy to be here, and we have two good topics today, and it's going to be participation from zoning and also the building division with two separate items, and one has to do with insights and observations in application submittals. That's going to be zoning, and the other item is going to be key observations in building plan review and inspections from the building division. So we'll kick it off with Kathy Lumsford. She is with the Department of Planning and Development, zoning, and she'll be talking about some insights and observations in application submittals. So, Kathy.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon. My name is Catherine Lunsford. I oversee residential permitting in the zoning permit section for the county, but I also want to acknowledge Drew Hushauer, who is the Assistant Zoning Administrator. I report to him, and he oversees all of permitting for zoning in the county. So I did do a presentation. I'm going to share my screen. Please feel free to interject and ask questions. Drew will interject too. Let me get to, we don't usually use Teams, so, or we don't usually use Zoom, so.
All good.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So, like I said, our section is responsible for the zoning review on any permit that requires it. Now, that could be a building permit or it could also be a zoning centric permit, but today we're going to talk about building permits. I would say probably the most common thing that happens that causes us to not be able to pass a permit or to even review a permit is an issue with the plat. And that can mean a lot of different things. That can mean the plat is illegible. It can mean it's cut off. It can mean the work is not showing. And I'm going to show some example of these things, but whatever is proposed is not showing. It can also mean that whatever is currently on the property is not showing. So the plat has to scale, show what is existing and what is proposed. People think we have like a master repository of plats in the county, and we don't. We have whatever's been given to us by builders or homeowners or contractors. There is a link, and I should have put it in this, but we will get it to you all, that you can now, you don't have to call us to request or go online to request a plat from us anymore. You can, for single family detached. You can actually access through an app yourself and download whatever we have for a specific property. So that's super helpful to folks. Just because we have it doesn't mean you can use it. But, of course, we're going to provide you with whatever we have. So the plat is important because it's like a chronology of what has occurred on a property, right? That being said, we try to be super flexible because we know it's a big expense. You have to hire a surveyor. Sorry, I slipped my mind. And so we want to, if we have something we can make work, we're going to let you do it. However, like in this particular instance, see so setbacks are a big thing for zoning, right? The lot lines are cut off. We can't, if only this part at the bottom was cut off, because I know where the property is, it's identified. If the lot lines were complete, we would have taken it. But we gotta when a reviewer brings a plat to me and says, can we take this or not? I always say, do you have the information you need to accurately complete the review? And if the answer is yes, we're going to try to make it work. But if it's not, like, this one over here is so illegible, we just can't get there. So those are two examples. Another example is when a permit comes in, we look at what the work is. We look at the plat. We also look at the aerial to see, what's on the property, what's going on. So in this instance, there were multiple problems. They wanted to build this porch. It was not drawn to, the drawings didn't match what was wrong on the plat, but also they were missing stuff on the back, right? And this is a problem for two reasons. Sometimes it means that, and a lot of times it's a previous owner or whoever has done work without permits that needs to be inspected for safety. Other times it means, you know, it's just not an accurate depiction of the property. Now, if you have a little shed in the back of your parcel and it's irrelevant, I'm not going to fail you for that, right? If we see something that would be a zoning violation, but it's something like that, we're gonna call you and tell you, hey, by the way, you've got this, it's too tall. You may have to address that, but we're not going to hold up your project. It's about using discretion and what's egregious enough to hold it up, and can we do the review? So I will tell you, and you know, we get drawings of all different caliber and all different kinds, and you get the homeowner who's trying to do a project themselves, and they, you know, we try really hard to take the drawings, but we have to be able to discern what you're trying to do and if it meets the ordinance. So that's another example. Okay, and this was just a yes and no for discretion. So on the right, you know, it's cut off at the bottom. But we take that because we've got the lot lines. We can get the information we need. On the left, we can't read the lot lines, so because we have to be able to scale it, right? So even if the document you submit is wildly out of scale, we can calibrate it most times, so we don't have to fail it for that. But we got to be able to see what it's supposed to be. So that's an example of, you know, this is too far, but yes, we can make this work. So does anybody have questions about plats?
Extremely helpful. I'm sure that to be able to see examples of what's good and what's not good is correct.
And if you ever have a document that you have a question, just call me or email me and I'll look at it, because, you know, I think what is often forgotten is we don't want to fail your permit, because it's just that just means it has to come back. You know, it's another review cycle. It's another one in our, like, the perfect solution is to ask the questions in the beginning so we can clear up whatever I mean, obviously we can't do a full review, but we are more than willing to look at it, and it makes it easier for everybody. You get your permit, we only have to review it once. It's beautiful. So if you have a question, just ask. We'll gladly look at them for you.
And if I could interject, like, this really underscores the point that Catherine made on the previous slide about just because we have a plat, like if you're going to use the open text in the reviewer, I mean, we encourage people to certainly go in, whether it's a homeowner or contractor, and look at the plats and stuff that we have available, but it doesn't mean that you can't use it. And oftentimes, you know, it's because of things that you're seeing here. It's not legible. I'd say the biggest one is that the plats are just not up to date. We have information going back to the mid to late 1940s. I can't tell you how many times we've been submitted. People come to the county and go into our records. They pull that really old plat, and then they submit it with a permit, and then we're looking at the aerials, and it's like, these aren't even the same house. I mean, this has been added on many times. So, you know, as Calvin said, we really try and work with people to, you know, homeowners in particular, to make it work. But there's just a certain level of information that we absolutely have to have.
Am I clear that the rules around plats, that if you have one on your site that we download and it is fresh, it's never been modified, it does in fact match existing, we could use that, add something to it, and that you can only modify an actual survey one time when you submit it for permit. Like, you couldn't do a deck at the back, hand draw it on there, and then the next time they're putting a front porch, or you hand draw the front porch. There's two submittals of hand drawn things. Is that kind of am I understanding the rules there correctly?
So technically, right, that is true. And that is really because we have discretion, right? We're not going to let you do 50 projects. But if you, in that scenario, if let's say you did a deck and I pull up the aerial and it really appears to match, right? We're going to let you use it again for the front. Like, we're not, that is not a hard, fast rule, but I actually, so since Drew and I got to ZPS in 2020, we've really tried to clean this up. But before that, I wish we had some examples of some of the things that people wanted to use. I mean, it was like stuff whited out and 100 different you couldn't. So that's what we're trying to get away from. But if it's clear and we can look at the aerial and we're comfortable and you're not like, there's no question that there's an encroachment, you know, we're going to let you use it more than once. We might even let you use it 3 times, but it just is case by case.
Got it. Just about being clear.
Yep.
Clearly portraying to you, as you, the county, everybody, exactly what is intended to be built and that it is conforming with the setbacks and other requirements.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, our goal is compliance. We just want to ensure compliance. And to that extent, we will ask for, the bare amount of information that we would need to do it.
That's great.
Catherine, you mentioned that you had a link that you could share. So I just wanted to invite you, like if you have something to share, you can drop it into the chat. And then I will save any of those, any links or anything like that. And then I will include that when I upload the video.
Okay, perfect. As soon as I'm done with this, I'll get it for you. Thank you. Okay. The next thing is permitted encroachments. And I have inadvertently messed up my screen, so I can't see what I'm doing here. Okay. Permitted encroachments. So there are certain things that absolutely can encroach to the setback, into the setback. An uncovered stoop and stairs can, as long as it's no wider than 10 feet, can go 5 feet into the setback. And I did snippet the zoning provisions that were relevant and include them. But, in this one, we had, it's not uncovered, right? And you can see porch roof right here. So that could not encroach. And so a whole lot of permits get failed because there's a discrepancy or an argument about what is uncovered or what's not uncovered or what is a permissible encroachment and what's not. And this is, again, if you have a question, we'll look at it. We'll tell you. Or that what's on the grading plan, the INF, doesn't match what's in the drawing. So let's say the INF has, uncovered, but then in the drawings, it's showing a roof, right? Everything has to match, especially if we're looking at an encroachment, because we're stamping that this is compliant and it can be built. Stoop and stairs are a huge one. And they've got to be fully uncovered. Every day we fail for those.
That's now and into the future, correct?
Yeah.
It's, if you get it approved today, the homeowners 5 years from now can't add a porch. They're going to be turned down for that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hey, Catherine, and just to make it abundantly clear, if you put any type of trellis or anything on top of that's not clear, right? Even if, you know what I'm saying?
Well, are you talking about like an ornamental feature, like a cornice or a?
Correct.
Okay, so and I'm getting into that right now.
Okay.
There are some extensions for ornamental features, awnings, cornice, canopies. But in this particular situation, you could actually step out. I know it's hard to tell from this, but you could actually step out onto this balcony, right? That is not an ornamental feature. That is a covering. So, but the particular applicant wanted us and argued very strongly it should be considered a cornice. And we just, we try to be as flexible as we can, but there's sometimes like the ordinance just can't support it. And this was one of those situations. This one was also interesting because it was a corner lot, which if you have a corner lot, you have 2 front yards. So over here on this side, they had a roofed deck that they wanted to be considered a Juliet balcony. It's just not. It was even labeled a deck. And it couldn't encroach into the front yard because there's no encroachment for that kind of structure in the front yard. So there's a table in our ordinance, and I can drop this in the chat too because it's super helpful, but this is for decks and patios and what the permitted extensions are according to how high they are. Okay, and this is perhaps the greatest, next to Platts, a tale as old as time, the greatest fail comment of all. Is it an accessory living unit? And the ordinance has, so I've been doing this a really long time. In the previous ordinance, you could only get it under a special permit. You had to go to the BZA. There were age restrictions. There were all these requirements. Now the ordinance has 2 paths, right? Either an administrative ALU permit, which is processed in my shop, or a special permit, depending on what you're proposing. If you have an accessory living unit, it's an administrative permit, that's going to run concurrently with your building. We're not going to hold up your building permit. We're going to review them concurrently. And as soon as we have deemed that the ALU is approvable, we put it in a holding status. We note it as that, put it in a holding status and approve your building permit so you can go do your work, right? And then once you get your final inspection and your fire alarm certification, we issue the ALU. It's very seamless, works very well. People are so resistant to the ALU. I mean, it is, And so we get all kinds of things, you know, kitchen, bathroom, their own washer and dryer. I mean, it sure looks like they're set. So when we see, and sometimes they're not, right? Sometimes they want to have football parties and they want to have, and that is 100% okay. But we're going to start asking questions when we see that, right? And what's really frustrating, candidly, is when we know it's an ALU. We know that's what they tell us, oh, you know, but then I've never seen so many craft rooms in all of my life. I mean, seriously, it's like Martha Stewart has taken over the county. That's the big one. And it's just, it's frustrating because there's a path forward and we're going to help you get through it, but let's make it legal, right? So when we flag one of these, it can go one of two ways. And over here on the right, you can see where so what we're looking at is, have they started carving out space, right? So you've got all your master stuff over here, but then over here you have kind of a wing that's got a family room, 2 bedrooms, you know, kitchen. So we're looking at, is something carved out? Does it have its own entrance? Are they calling it an in-law suite? Are they calling it an au pair suite? Sometimes people have like a full kitchen in their basement because they have a pool and it's a walkout basement. That makes, if there is a nexus and it makes sense, what we're going to do is let you sign a second kitchen certification, which says, and that we have 2 different versions. We have one that if it's like a new build and a builder is, you know, they can, and it's saying, I won't advertise it as this. I will tell them that they can't, whatever, use it as an ALU. Or we have the owner version. And what it says is, I've got all these provisions and I know I have them, but I'm attesting that I'm not going to use it as an ALU. And if I do want to use this as an ALU, I'm going to come get the appropriate permit before I do that. And that goes on in the record for the property in the county records. So that if there is a problem, you know, and the other thing is we'll have realtors call us and say, is this kitchen, realtors call all the time, or actually appraisers. And, you know, we find all kinds of, a wet bar was approved and now it's a huge kitchen. And it's just, it is so much harder to try to fix these things on the back end than to permit them on the front end. But it's all day long we deal with this. So those are 2 examples. Here are some other ones. This is a basement. You know, they've got a storage area, bedroom, kitchen, living area. You know, but sometimes people just want to have a recreation area in their basement, and that's fine. It just, the request is, when we ask the questions, please tell us. And I know you all are all great about this, but I'm just explaining what we deal with. Because our goal is for you to be able to do what you want to do and do it legally. And we're going to help you get there. If you just tell us what you want to do. Right. So.
Because if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably
right.
Yeah. And I would say too, you know, just like the market is involved, this is a pretty popular thing to do in homes. Maybe not necessarily a straight up ALU, but certainly the second kitchens. I mean, that's pretty common, I think, in homes nowadays. But you know, just like the market has evolved, the county's evolved on this issue as well. I think the current view of ALUs is very much like it's a sum of its parts. It used to be where the county had this real firm red line, which is, if you have a second kitchen with a cooking apparatus in it, you are automatically an ALU. And so we forever, you know, applicants would come in, or if somebody was under violation, it's like, well, I'm just going to remove the stove. Therefore, it's no longer an ALU. And it's not that simple anymore. I mean, I think in a way it's better, the policy now. So, I mean, we're going to look at the totality of what you have going on, you know, all the things that Catherine mentioned. You know, is there a section of the house, you know, where maybe it's not a full-on kitchen, maybe it is a wet bar, but if I see a space that has kitchen cabinets in it and a sink, and you maybe have separate laundry, master bath, you know, a bedroom, and that is off on its own with separate entrance to the dwelling proper, like that's probably going to be deemed to be an ALU. So, you know, I really stress that notion it's a sum of its parts. It's no one thing that's going to trip you into it one way or the other. There's a number of factors that we're going to look at in combination to arrive at that conclusion.
And we have seen some, one comes to mind. I mean, we've seen some unbelievable basement build outs that were not ALUs. You know, the wife, this particular one, they were big into wine. They had a huge wine cellar. They wanted to be able to the wife was into cooking and gourmet and wanted to be able to make snacks and have parties with their friends, right? And they had a kitchen that was unbelievable down there. But when, you know, this is why like talking is so important, because as we talk to them, we realize like, this is not an ALU. This is not, and so they signed the cert and they got to build exactly what they wanted, and, you know, it's perfect. But as Drew was saying, like I always remind folks, it's not about what you have, it's about how you're going to use it. So.
That's great. I do have on the ALUs. I mean, because you're exactly right. I've been contacted, actually, and right now we have 2 projects that are where we're looking to take an existing home, add an au pair suite to it without cooking, so that in both cases, the parents can move into that and give the rest of the house to the kids and the grandkids, but share the kitchen. Where does the line draw with ALU versus just an addition? Can you shed some light on that?
So if they're going to share, there's only going to be one kitchen in the whole house. I would not consider that an ALU. I mean, they're going to have some private space, but they're functioning essentially as one household. I apologize. Another thing we look at is laundry. In that situation, like, you know, quite frankly, I have 2 laundries in my house. It's not the be all end all, right?
Yeah.
But if they only have one kitchen, then that's totally clear that they're going to be sharing provisions. We would not call that an ALU. I mean, obviously I can't definitively say that without seeing it, but I can't imagine we would.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You know,
another
you're
example.
allowed to have like multiple master suites.
Yeah, there was a one that came through recently that we actually deemed it to be an ALU, and it was sort of interesting, the discussion with the applicant, how it kept evolving, and we were still coming to the same conclusion. It was based on the layout, and it was a house that had gone through the permitting process to do basically an in-law suite with no kitchen in it, and it was above. There was like a garage if you're looking at the house on the left side of the house, and there was a above the garage they built this separate suite, and it was all permitted by the county in the 90s. Well, then the original owner added the kitchen in without ever getting any permit approvals for it. And so now it's a situation where the son has moved into the house, and the parents are, one of them I think has passed away, and you know, he's there to take care of his mother, and he wanted to occupy the suite that now has the kitchen in it above the garage, and he wanted to renovate it. So he was coming in and doing the right thing to get the permits, and we stopped it, saying, well, no, this is absolutely an ALU, and because of the size of it and whatnot, you're going to need a special permit. And so and then I got involved with it at that point, and we got in this lengthy discussion with the builder and the applicant about where is that line, and what can I do to get it administratively now to be able just to get into it, and then I'll decide if I want to come back later and get the special permit. And they tried taking the kitchen out, they tried changing entrances and all of this, but at the end of the day, it was just the way that it was oriented and how that space related to the rest of the house and all the other things that were being offered in that space. We just couldn't get there. I mean, you couldn't, it was a separate unit with or without a kitchen. Like you couldn't get around it. And so, you know, they're in a process now where they're trying to modify it further to try to get to the point where we could allow it to go through. So, you know, that's a pretty classic way that these issues unfold.
Well, great job. That was wonderful. Any other questions from anybody? All right.
Great. Well, thank you, Catherine and Drew. Good job. All right. So next on the agenda, we have Kyle Kratzer. He's with the building division. He's going to get us started with a conversation regarding key observations in building plan review and inspections. Kyle?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Like Hellman said, my name is Kyle Kratzer. I've been involved with LDS for about 8 years now, and mainly focused on some of the residential inspections and plan review. And after discussing with staff, trying to get a general idea of what some of the top struggles are with the residential plan review, one of the top themes that kept coming back was completeness of plans, specifically when it comes to specifying all the materials. Yes, a 2x10 is a 2x10, but the species of the wood and the grade of the lumber play a huge factor in the spans. And that seems to be a pinch point in a lot of plans is getting that material spec'd correctly. If there's a new product being used, providing the manufacturer's installation instructions or an evaluation report, that is always a theme. And one of those top items ends up probably the item that is most contested with me, because I'm also responsible for the deck details, is the surface mounted guardrail posts. Those are a very, very popular building feature in today's decks. However, they're probably never, we're probably not going to, don't like to say never, but we're probably not going to put a general detail in the deck details for it because the requirements vary. There's such a wide variety of requirements for them. Some of the products have an evaluation report that has a installation detail for them. And with those products, we can accept it just with the details. Other ones, it's outside of the scope of the evaluation report. So we need one provided. Not only that, but the products themselves vary. Some of these products have a base plate that are only 2.5 inches wide, and other ones have up to 4 or 5 inches, and that greatly impacts the type of fastener needed. So those details all need to be provided for not only the designer but also the installer as well. And if there's any questions, we have the number directly to our residential plan reviewers, where they're able to answer that question. If you have, if you're not sure if your product has an evaluation report or if your product has, or if a design is going to work, our reviewers can answer those questions for you prior to that submission. Another one of the, I think, often confused design elements is when wood framed roofs are being designed, not just trusses, but using rafters and ceiling joists. And that area that tends to be confused a lot is the difference between a collar tie and a rafter tie. Collar ties are required in the top third, joining rafters together. And that is to resist, and I have a graphic here. So collar ties go in the top third, and they're used to resist uplift, spreading the rafters apart, whereas rafter ties or ceiling joists are used to resist outward thrust, allowing for the vertical load. So collar ties resist horizontal loads and rafter ties resist vertical loads. Both end up being required for a complete roof system. Now, this is when you're using a ridge board as opposed to a ridge beam. A ridge beam is a completely different design. One thing the code does allow is replacing the collar ties with ridge straps, where a ridge strap can be used because it's still connecting the opposing rafters to resist that uplift. However, they are both required, and that's often I think a pinch point in these wood framed roof designs. Of course, we just went to the 2021 code cycle, so there are some code changes there. And if anybody has any questions about some of those changes, I'm happy to answer those right now.
Any questions from anyone? I have a question that's actually going backwards slightly. One of the things, back to zoning, and Catherine, I remember years ago, there was a sheet that I actually had it in my office hanging that had every zoning designation with the appropriate setbacks to it. And I lost that. I don't know where it went to, but does something like that exist? Because right now what we end up doing is calling and bothering somebody on staff to say, here's the address. Can you tell us what the setbacks are? But does a sheet like that exist, or is there somewhere we could go and access like that as a whole?
So there's a working document that I'm happy to copy it and send it to you. They're all available in the ordinance, but you got to go to each zoning district. But we have one that says R1, R2, R3, and I'm happy to copy it and send it to you.
I would love that, honestly.
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you.
If you want to send me your email, I can,
Sure.
or do you want me to, does everyone want it? I can send me your email and I'll send it to you.
I'll send it over. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the only sort of, I think that will cover certainly any of the conventionally zoned properties. When you do get into, a lot of the rezone development, especially plan districts, the setbacks are going to be set when the board approves the rezoning. So,
Sure.
The list that she's referring to is have all the conventional stuff on it. I think it has the cluster districts on there as well. But so much of the property's been rezoned in the county. It's just those plan districts when you see that PDH in front of it, and you have questions about the setbacks, definitely give us a call, because those
Sure.
you really have to look at the original rezoning file to determine it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that very much, because I know that there's been adjustments. It's more for the 60% of the time it's the standard, and then just having that sheet. In fact, I think somebody, when I came in years ago, when you used to have to come in and sit in front of somebody and do the plan review, it was sitting on the board and they copied it and gave it to me. So I think how I got it. So, but that was 15 years, maybe more. Okay, well, any other questions from anyone? It's been one of the better conversations that we've had. It's very, very informative. I think this is going to go a long way.
Ted, I just want to say one thing.
Yes.
Jay Riot, county's building official. Debbie, Ted, thanks for putting this together, and everyone coming together. Kyle Kratzer is in our building codes and research branch. He spent a number of years reviewing plans for both residential new construction and alteration. So I just want to kind of introduce the staff that we have building division wise for you and all of your members who can reach out to us. I think Kyle pointed to that. We're available to answer any questions to help your permits get through as quickly as possible without any hiccups, if we can. And I think communication is very key. So on our call here, we have Anthony McMahon, who is in the technical services. He reviews, his staff of about 5 and 6 other reviewers review the new residential construction projects and alteration projects that are not within the fast track. Basically, and generally, what is not structural work and work that is greater than 500 square feet is within Anthony McMahon's shop of residential plan reviewers. On the other side, we have Richard Raymond. He is the supervisor for the residential fast track group. I think his name shows up as pro, but he is in the call here as well. And so him and his staff of about 4 or 5 folks also review the residential fast track plans that come in, and those turnaround are usually within 5 business days. The regular residential plans, maximum time turnaround that we target is 10 business days. On the call also we have James Anjum, who is the branch chief of the technical services branch, and he oversees Anthony, Kyle, and Richard's groups, both from the building codes and research, residential fast track, and the complete residential review. So this is kind of how we're set up in the building division for the plan review side of things. And certainly in a future meeting, we would like to bring our inspection supervisors that are involved in the residential side, so that you can have a taste of what they're seeing as well.
It'd be great, and that was well done. Thank you.
Sure.
It's good to meet everybody.
Before you
Yes.
log on, Ted, can I just real quickly looping back to Drew? I dropped my email. Please and reach out anytime. But also I put our technician line number. So 5 days a week, all day long, you can call and a reviewer will answer the phone. You can also come in and a reviewer will sit down with you. So there's always somebody in zoning available. But you can call the technician line and they will, if you have a P district and you need setbacks.
Okay.
If it's one that requires a conversion or they may have to call you back,
Mhm.
but they'll get working on it. So that's a really good resource if you need information. You know, there's always someone available.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, any last words? Well, I got to tell you that I know behalf of Pro, we're grateful for all the time and energy that you all have put into pulling us together. I think the conversations are important, and I think they do help drive understanding. And again, all of our goals are the same. That's what's, I think, wonderful. We all want to do good quality projects, have them come through the system. Ideally, the first time makes everybody happy. And so I think this is going to help go a long way. So to each and every one of you, thank you for taking the time and your busy schedules to pull this together and sit with us today. So thank you.
Righty. Thank you, Ted, and thanks to the First County team. And we'll see you next time.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
well done, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.